This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country. Anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360? No price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds? Not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Jeff Eschliman, welcome to the conversation today.
So delighted to be with you, John.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Phoenix area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the secret to building great company culture. This is a lot of fun to talk about this topic. I think culture is one of those topics, those issues that it's sometimes hard to grasp. We often talk around it. It's one of those things I think we're always striving for, yet often not achieving, right. to find good, healthy, positive organizational and company cultures, team cultures. So we're going to really try to unpack this and explore what we can do, like what actionable things can we do today to start to create more positive company, organizational, team cultures, just to make things a little bit better for everyone. We're coming back from a holiday break, and I think this is a great time to be exploring this topic together. As we get started, I wanted to share Jeff's bio with everybody. Jeff Eschliman is an executive coach with 30 years of experience from combat in Iraq to the corporate boardroom. Personal development, consistency, and tenacious work ethic are hallmarks of Jeff's leadership style. Jeff communicates crystal clear vision and bold expectations with his collaborative approach. Jeff is a sought-after expert for building and scaling results-driven teams. He believes hiring the right people, equipping them with the tools they need to be successful, and then holding them accountable for results is the secret to exceptional business success. He knows creating culture through attracting top talent, intentional onboarding, and rigorous top grading are critical for winning with people.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, how to get 30, how to get 20, 20, 20, how to get 20, 20, how to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab, LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Living with schizophrenia isn't easy, especially when you're not getting relief from some of your symptoms. It can be hard when you're still dealing with symptoms, like hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there, and negative symptoms, like feeling unmotivated or avoiding social situations. If this sounds familiar, it might be time to talk to your healthcare provider and explore a different kind of schizophrenia treatment. Discover your possibilities at treatingschz.com.
Hey business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Could go on, but there's so much more about your background, your personal experience and successes. But I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background before we dive on in?
No, let's just get going.
Okay, well, great. You really do have a great background. You bring a lot of that insight, that experience, that wisdom to this conversation. Based on your experience, what would you say are some of those core pillars to what you've seen as driving success in the teams you've been a part of in terms of that positive culture?
Well, I mean, we mentioned them there in the introduction. I mean, I'm a big fan of, you mentioned being practical. That's, and the other word that I would use here, John, is intentional. If you want to create great culture, you have to be intentional about it. And those 3 steps that were mentioned in the introduction being, hire the right people, equip them with the resources they need to be successful, and then hold them accountable for results. That is really the 3-legged stool for moving things forward. But I always go right back to the very basics, the leadership development stuff. I do a lot of Dale Carnegie type work that goes right back to those foundational and fundamental principles that, he penned in the 30s. And being intentional about your relationships with people, to me, is really where it all starts. And being genuine and interested and just being a good person.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of complex models out there. There's lots of highfalutin ivory tower types of gobbledygook we can talk about, but when it really comes down to it, it's just about being a good person, being good to people, treating people with dignity and respect. It really boils down to some pretty basic things, doesn't it?
Right. And let if you don't mind, let's just kick off on hiring the right people. And one of the, so I did this 30-year career in home building here in the Phoenix market, a little bit of a unicorn, 30 years all with the same organization. And then after retiring and then going into executive coaching, I had my own lens on creating great culture within the organization that I'd worked for all those years. But then I went out and started working with organizations, and it just, sometimes it shocks me that the level of, let's call it success, right? Which is mostly financial success that organizations can have without doing those things that we mentioned, hiring the right people and all that. But it doesn't end up leading to ultimate success, because I'll end up working with the CEOs and founders that have, again, financially successful organizations, but it's usually one of 2 things. They are either tethered to the business, right? Like the organization is not running essentially without them, which is what I think, is a worthy idea, to build a business that runs without you, and not without you, but with the day-to-day.
Yeah.
So they're tethered, or they're not able to enjoy, let's call it, that financial success, because they are so tethered to the organization that their home life is suffering, their relationships, their physical health, and or, even if they don't have one of those big 3, they're not able to enjoy the success, the financial success in other ways, to be able to travel, or, because they'd go away on a 2-week vacation and come back and their, business would be a crater. Right. So to me, that's the pitfall of financial success. So for me, that's why the hiring the right people is so very important. And where I was going with that, what I see with a lot of my clients is sometimes it's even just the most basics, like having an accurate job description for what somebody's going to be doing in your organization. And if you don't, in my mind, start with that, well, then who are you going to get? You're going to get whatever's out there, versus going out and intentionally and specifically searching for that ideal candidate who not only meets, I see a lot of businesses hire for skill set and experience, and all of those things are critical and important. But in my mind, if you're not hiring on the core values of yourself or your organization, then that's where problems happen later. And coaching for, let's call it, behavior versus performance is one of the hardest things to do in the workforce. So it's vital to me to attract and hire the right kind of talent. And it's not easy to do, but it is possible, right? So I'll pause there and see if you want to go anywhere else.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. And, a lot of times we talk about culture from a reactive standpoint. And so there's a problem, right? We have some sort of toxicity in our culture. And so then we think, okay, how are we going to fix this? And certainly if there's toxicity, we need to try to fix it. We need to try to address it. We need to get rid of the toxic person. We need to fix the, whatever the broken system or structure is. We need to infuse, positivity. We need to do those things, right? But it's so much easier to just be proactive about it in the first place. And that starts with getting the right people in the first place, right? Yeah. To your point, finding people that align with your values, that have aspirational goals that are in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish in your organization. And that goes beyond simply skills alignment. So certainly, we want people that have the competencies, the skills, and the capabilities to do what we need, to get done in the business. That's super important, right?
Right.
But we also can train, for a lot of the skills that need to be accomplished. And sometimes it's harder to find alignment in terms of the values and the mindset and some of those sorts of things. And so it's really, really important to keep in mind that the cultural piece, the fit piece, the values congruence and alignment piece, those really can be tough. And so we need to be super intentional about how we craft putting the team together and creating that culture in a proactive way on the outset. It's hard enough to do it that way, and then to maintain, and to cultivate a positive culture in that kind of an environment.
Sure.
And then if you're trying to fix and to nurture back to health a sick culture, that's so hard. So just trying to be as proactive as possible is always the better approach.
Right. And what we're talking about here also presupposes that your organization has its purpose well defined and its core values and core competencies well defined. To me, that's the North Star. I've ran in business for the last 15 years of my career, a one-page strategic plan that talks about core purpose, core customer, then it's core values, core competencies, and really defining what you want that to be, to me, is that predecessor to going out and searching for, again, like we're discussing, this right candidate.
Yeah. So let's assume we do, we have a good job description in place. We actually know what we need. We have a clear take on our strategy, our vision, our values, what we actually, when we're thinking about congruence and fit, when we think about all those things and the skills, the competencies, the capabilities that we need, when all of that's clear to us, we go out, we find the right people, we form the right team. Let's assume all of that's in place. And that's a huge assumption, right? Because that's really hard to do. Right. But let's assume all of that's in place. Now what? Now, how do we go about, moving forward to further create and maintain and sustain this positive, healthy culture?
Right. And that's a good segue into number 2, which is equip your team with the resources they need to be successful. Right. And for me, that even starts in the interview process. So when you're crystal clear about who you are and what you do and how you do it, you can oftentimes screen folks out just in the interview process, right? To make sure that there's alignment there. But let's say that you've gotten past that part and we found an ideal candidate. Here's another thing that I find in business that, and this is one of all the things that we're going to talk about that are hard to do. Here's a really easy one that I also see organizations not do, which is how well do you onboard a new team member, right? And so, even just the basics of having their workspace set up if they're not remote, if they're in person, making it special for my old boss used to, John, equate this to like starting fifth grade, right? And it's one thing to even just start fifth grade, even if you're at the same school and you're this, dorky kid. But, imagine you were going to a brand new, school in fifth grade and how alone you feel. And he used to always remind us that when somebody starts in our organization, it's like that. It's like you're going to school for the first time at a new place. And it's our job to not only just make them feel welcome, but celebrate the fact that they chose you. And one of the things that I used to do in my organization, we had company logoed shirts, that kind of thing. And in the interview process, if we got to the point where I was going to hire this person, I'd have my admin assistant find out what their shirt size was. And I would send them, I'm an old school, handwritten note guy. And so I would just pin them a little just a little note that says, hey, Sally, loved meeting you in the interview process. Can't wait for you to get started. I know you're going to be a tremendous value add to our organization. And then I'd send them a shirt that they could, choose to or choose not to wear on day one. But that's just one small thing. But what about, creating like, going out to lunch on the first day? Again, if it's an in-person scenario or if it's an online, you can create a welcome session where you invite them into the organization and then get super intentional about how onboarding goes. Like, what's the intentional plan for them? The 3 chunks of time for me are the first day or the first week, the first month, and the first 90 days. Typically in the first 90 days, you can get somebody mostly ramped up in their role. But if you just go about it haphazard, it doesn't make for success. So how well you onboard somebody is, to me, one of those things that is easy to do, but it's also so easy to do that most people, at least what I've seen in business, don't do that part well.
I agree. I think most don't do it well. Most, in my experience, most really don't do it much at all. Like you show up, they'll do, like, onboarding is you show up and you do your HR paperwork. You choose your benefits package, your plan, health plan, whatever. You do, you sign, you fill out your direct deposit form, you do some of that kind of stuff, and that's your onboarding.
Right.
And those things are important. You need to do that, but that's like, out of all of the things that you should be doing in onboarding, that's like super low on
Table
the priority
stakes.
list, Yeah. And so all the things that you said in terms of like helping them to get to understand the feel of the organization and the team, and to get to know people and to understand the values, that can start from the very beginning. That should start from the very first time they see a job posting. Like, they should get a feel for, oh, this is an organization I want to work with because of XYZ. Like, this is the place to be, right? And then from the time they start interviewing, it should be reinforced over and over again to the time when they come into the organization, they're excited to be there because you're an employer of choice, right? And they come in and they start to have that reinforced in those first days and weeks in the organization. And all that should be reinforced through all the onboarding practices that occur. And then it's just a huge swing and a miss from a lot of organizations. It's just a missed opportunity that they just don't do it. And someone shows up and you miss out on all that goodwill, that honeymoon period at the very beginning, when people are so ready and willing to just kind of give themselves to the organization. And you lose that momentum.
Right.
And people are just so excited and ready to hit the ground running, and instead, they just kind of get thrown into the weeds, and they don't really know what they're doing, and people don't really know what to tell them to do, and
Right.
it's weird how unprepared teams
Organizations
often are
are.
for the new people that come in.
Yeah. Another really fun thing to do is if you can assign somebody an onboarding buddy, which
Hmm.
is somebody else that's already tenured in the organization, and not that they're holding their hand through the onboarding process. I really believe that's the hiring manager's job. But when you're, again, I said, if you have a really intentional 90-day plan to get people ramped up, if you have somebody that's an onboarding buddy, it's like, hey, Sally, welcome to the organization. John is over here in accounting, but he's going to be your onboarding buddy, even though he's not in the same department. You're going to get a lot of information here over the next 90 days about who our organization is, how we operate, what we do. But anywhere along the way, like you're going to be drinking from the fire hose. If you have any questions, or even if you're going to meet a lot of people in the organization and you might forget who, you can always reach out to John, and he can either do one of two things. He can either A, provide you the answer and maybe show you how to fill out your time card or whatever, or he can help you find the right person in the organization who can help you on whatever question that you have. And that's just another really simple thing to do in an intentional onboarding process. That, and again, let's go right back to the beginning. I'm into very practical, like, ways that you can, I would almost call it game the system, right? And like you said, there are so few that do this, and this isn't even one of the hard things, right? So that's why I think that's so important.
Yeah. Okay, so you get the right people in. That's hard to do, but it's certainly doable. You onboard them, you get them more embedded into the organization. Now, what would you say is the next key thing that organizations should focus on?
Well, the next bullet that I want to cover under this idea of equipping people is communication. But before I hit communication, I want to talk about what my holy grail is with culture, and that's team member engagement versus team member satisfaction, right? And just, again, paint a picture of what I see a lot of in business is, I call the first tier of business like the don't leave me type culture, where organizations, the managers and senior level leaders are just waiting for the next person to, turn in their resignation. And that's if they're not, hiding in their cubicle and, quiet quitting mode, right?
Yeah.
So if for what I see mostly, like, online and celebrated, is a place where you can get an organization to move from don't leave me to employee satisfaction, which is good, right? Satisfaction generally means I'm happy with the compensation package, the benefits, the culture itself is a place where you can exist and you're satisfied, right? And that is fine. But if you really want to create an A player culture, and you want to create the kind of place where you get, again, my holy grail is engagement, right? And I love to use sort of a negative analogy, right? Like Henry Ford used to say, like, why did I hire a person? I hired them for their hands, and I got the whole person, right? Like smoke breaks and all. And that's the negative side. But employee engagement for me, or team member engagement, is when you get more than their hands. You get their heart and their mind, and you get their ideas. And what I've seen in engagement is you get more of everything. Like, you get more than you're paying for in the comp plan and all that. And that is engagement, where people are excited to do what their role is. They're excited to work in your team engagement, or they're in your team's mission. You're all focused on the same purpose and vision. And so when you can create team member engagement, to me, that's the holy grail. Now, I said all that to tell you this, which is the key to all of that is effective communication. And I mean at the one-on-one team member level, and let's put that one as B, but let's talk about at the A level, which is how is the organization communicating, again, the mission, the vision, the values, but then what is the business and how are we doing? Here's the business plan. And again, my holy grail, John, is when you can get every person in the organization to understand what their role is in this business success, and then you have the communication and the metrics to back up how we were doing, that gets into the level B, which is direct communication. And again, this is one of those things where it just blows me away how many organizations I work in that they don't have like regular one-on-one communication. I was just working with this founder over the last 6 months, and I said, how often are you having one-on-ones with your direct reports? And he said, well, I mean, we all work here in the same office. I see them every day. If I have something, I just walk into their office and we have a conversation and we resolve it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's communication, yes, but what you're missing here is the intentional piece, right?
Right.
And so if you have intentional one-on-ones, and I don't, I'd love to hear what you think the sweet spot is for one-on-ones. My personal is 2 weeks. I have organizations that meet or individuals that meet on a weekly basis, or even later in my career, I was able to stretch mine out to monthly with my direct reports because we were having daily huddles and regular communication, but all of these were super intentional. And the reason I think the one-on-one meeting is so vital is, and here's another little aside, I personally believe that the team member should run the one-on-one, not the leader, not the manager. And I have a really simple 3-step process. Number 1 on the list is you tell me how things are going. Tell me, it's your job description, it's the company initiatives, it's the how many sales or the cycle time, is the budget, it's all of the performance level metrics. How are you doing? And then number 2 on the list is how can I support you, or how can the team support you? And then number 3 on the list is now I'm going to tell you how I think you're doing, right? And it's not just the performance and the metrics and all that, although that's probably 70% of it. 30% of it is coaching on behaviors, right? And again, like I mentioned at the outset, that is not easy to do in business, is to coach to behavior, versus what's more common in business is to coach to performance. But if you're not coaching to behavior, in my estimation, you're not going to build an A player culture. You're not going to build something that you have team member engagement. And so those are vital conversations, because we've all had this happen, right? If you're sitting in, let's say it's the round table meeting, and somebody from marketing is reporting out on, what's the marketing plan for the next 6 months, and one of your direct reports starts rolling their eyes in the meeting, right? Now, that's one of those things that is very subtle, and yet it can be very powerful in a negative way. And I'm again, go back to Carnegie. I'm a praise in public guy. I'm a coach in private guy, right? So I want to pull my direct report either right after that meeting, if need be. But in our next one-on-one interaction, like that's going to be something that we discuss in their one-on-one, is the negative effect that body language and things of that nature can have on the group as a whole. And if you're just the kind of manager who leads or leader who leads without having regular intentional conversations, after the meeting wraps up, it's like, hey, Bill, you got a minute? Right? And it sounds like you're going to the principal's office, and maybe you are. But if you have regular interactions, regular one-on-one communication where you're talking about both behavior and performance, then this is just what we do here, right? And you have these subtle cues, and it's coaching rather than discipline. Now, it can get to discipline if things aren't going well, but when you run your style in a coaching manner, to me, that is just so much more effective.
Yeah, I like that. I absolutely agree. The best performance management is developmental. And like you said, it becomes coaching, and coaching is developmental. Uh, and you asked about the cadence of these one-on-ones. Ultimately, I think it depends, right? It depends on the type of organization, the type of work, the type of people on your team. Um, I tend to think, more frequent than less frequent it tends to be better. That doesn't necessarily mean weekly, but I think being able to touch base on a regular basis is important, so you can have those regular coaching conversations, and so you can build a rapport. You want to be able to develop a relationship, a communication, a give and take, and you want to be able to develop trust, with your people. And that can't happen if you don't meet with them on a regular basis. And it is different when you have a regular cadence with them, than when it's just kind of the pop in opportunities. And you can have an open door policy, and you can still do pop-ins, and you can still grab people after the meeting, and you can still do those things too. But having a cadence, I think, is really helpful.
Totally agree.
Jeff, this has just been a great conversation. I note the time. I need to let you go. But before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, the best places to find me are either on LinkedIn, Jeff Eschliman on LinkedIn, or my website, which is jeffeschliman.com. So that's JEFF and then ESCHLIMAN, jeffeschliman.com. Final word, build culture through intentionality.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Jeff, it's just been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Jeff can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.